to try to work with you all a little bit about some of this sighting because you seem to be a little bit confused about it. So I'm trying to pull up some drawings that I think you can see on this particular video, and I'm aware that sometimes you cannot, but I want to show you a few things about perspective and a few things about this intuitive perspective that we're doing other than the one point linear perspective, or two as the case may be. I'm working in a program called Illustrator. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. It doesn't matter. What I really want to do is show you how some of these drawings work. Okay, so this is the first one. I'm not sure offhand whose this is. I'm going to go in here and attempt to show you a few things about perspective. Now, if you're doing this, this is what you're seeing and you're trying to measure. One of the most valuable things, I think, is to take this area here, look at that as a negative space. Depending upon where this ball of twine, I assume it is, sits, this angle is going to be different. Now, if you have trouble reading an angle, then you can always make a little line and read off of that. Now, let's see if I can make that a color so that you can bear with me on this, so that you can see the line as I move it around. All right, so if I drop a vertical line here, and then if I were to take a horizontal line and make a 90-degree off of that, and you can take your pencil and kind of hold it that way and figure out which way you want it to work. I'm going to see if I can pick up that, yeah, style so I won't have to keep changing it. Okay, so you can read the shape of this angle if you like put it in there, and then if you look at it you can read the shape right here. Now that looks to me like probably a little bit more than a 45-degree angle. If you're not a great mathematician, and I'm not, believe me, if you're not a great mathematician, you can still get an idea about what that line or what that angle would be. Just the shape of it, you know? And sometimes you have to just look at it, look at your paper, look at the line you've drawn, look at the actual thing, and just try to pay close attention what that shape is. Another way to do it is to take that vertical, put your vertical in here or here, and look at that shape right there. And let me see if I can make that clear. That shape right in there. Making that shape work for you also makes these lines kind of, or this line kind of come to where it's supposed to here, and this area here be about where it is. I don't know how clear I'm making that, but that's a little bit about looking at this negative, the shape of this negative space. And then of course you could do the same thing here, and you could decide a little bit about the curvature. Now this is a sphere, so it's not quite so hard to do. Let's talk about linear perspective, which you certainly can use, even though drawing from observation suggests this other way. If I did this, if I made a square here, or a rectangle right there, like that. And then if I wanted to figure out exactly how that rectangle would appear in space, of course with linear perspective, somewhere over here I have a horizon, and all I have to do is take one of these corners and take it to that vanishing point. Let's assume that vanishing point is some here. I'm just going to go off of this. Somewhere I'll run it up like that, just along that line for now. I keep losing this thing too. Let me see if I can go back and keep that in. Okay. If I were to do that, then I put this also, then that would mean my vanishing point is going to meet this, and I'm assuming just arbitrarily that that's where that vanishing point is going to be. So you see how that aligns then, tells me how I'm going to draw this with a linear perspective. Then it's an easy thing. All I have to do is just pull that line across here, because that's about where somebody's decided that's the end of that block, and you've measured that by proportions, right? So now you're getting the illusion of how this thing goes into space. Now, the other thing is this very same linear perspective point, this vanishing point, would also determine where that line right there is going to be. So you can begin to see how, for an example, this didn't really work and that didn't really work in setting this up. Then when I want to make this work again, all I have to do is drop that line down to that next line that goes like that. So now you're beginning to get an idea of what this rectangle would look like in deep space or in space. Now, if my vanishing point is going to be here, then of course this rectangle, because it's set up with the face parallel to that face, this rectangle is going to be uh, subject to the same laws of perspective. Um, Sorry, I keep losing the color on that. So that's how that works. And then this would also go, so you begin to get an idea of how I would determine the perspective on this little guy too. I guess that's a salt shaker or a pepper shaker right there, but great shape. I like all of these. But anyway, that might give you a little bit of an idea about that kind of perspective. Now, let me briefly, here's another one that, let's see if I can get another one. Let me get this out of the way. All these little lines I'm going to have to put away. And I think, I've forgotten whose this was, but I think I sent you an example of how that would work. Let me move these lines up here, and I'll come back and get them in a minute and get rid of that and bring maybe this one in. We'll talk a little bit about the perspective on this. Now again, I chose some of these at random just because they were on my computer from downloading them and because you could see them, or at least I think you can see them a little bit better than maybe some others. Now here again is a perfect example of how to set that perspective.